Okay, how does ayahuasca work, right? How does ayahuasca heal you? See, we often hear of there are tons of stories out on the internet, and maybe you know someone who has partaken in an ayahuasca ceremony and their life has become much better. They've overcome addictions, they've overcome depression, they've overcome illnesses and even diseases. And so you might be wondering, how does this work? Especially when the mainstream science and the mainstream medical association will tell us that ayahuasca is bad for you and dangerous. Well, the answer to how it works is complicated because on one level, when you partake in ayahuasca, you are interacting with an intelligence, a divine intelligence, a spiritual intelligence, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to our Western mind, right? See, we have been conditioned to believe that the only thing that exists and the only thing that is true is things that science can prove, right? It has to be plotted on a graph. You have to be able to see it under a microscope. But the truth is, there is a much bigger world that goes much deeper than science. Now, with that being said, one of the aspects of how ayahuasca actually works has been proven by science, which is really cool because I love when there is a crossover between the mystical and the scientific. So let's talk about first how ayahuasca works on the energetic and spiritual level. Well, to understand this, you first have to understand that everything at its most basic level is energy, right? Everything is vibrating at a very specific energetic frequency. Your coffee mug, your coffee table, your bed, and even things like addiction, fear, anxiety, sadness, love, peace, all those things have an energetic frequency associated with them. And in fact, you would say that they are nothing but energy. That is the basis of all existence. So once you understand that everything is energetic, you can start to see how ayahuasca works. See, when you take ayahuasca, what you're doing is you are accessing the energetic or spiritual world. So these things, energies and spirits, are essentially the same thing. So you access the spirit world, you access your energetic body. And because everything is energy, when you are suffering from things like depression, addiction, traumas, and even illnesses, you can think of this as your body is out of harmony, right? It's disharmonized, it's diseased. So your body is out of whack and it's disrupted. And now this obviously is a very simple explanation of a much more complicated process, but ayahuasca helps you reharmonize yourself. It helps bring your energies into balance. And also, particularly in the Shipibo process, the Shipibo are very good at helping you remove negative energies, energies that do not need to be there. If you are riddled with fear and you are riddled with anxiety and you have addictions, well, these are energies that are not serving you. So, in addition to harmonizing you, we can also help remove these energies. And then when those energies are removed, we can then put you back together, bring in some love, bring in some light, and connect you to your energetic body, your true potential, your own connection to the source. And then there's another aspect of the intelligence. Whether you've taken ayahuasca or you've talked to someone who has, you might always hear them saying something like she or grandmother. And that's because ayahuasca is universally accepted as a grandmotherly spirit. And almost anyone who has taken it has interacted with the spirit on some form or another. And this grandmotherly spirit, who I personally feel is Mother Nature. You are connecting into the spirit of the earth, Mother Nature herself. And when you connect with her, she teaches you and guides you on how to be a better person. It's fascinating. I've been involved with many ceremonies, and I can tell you that almost universally, after someone does it, not only do they start to feel better, but they want to be better. And I start hearing people, I follow up with them, and they'll say, I just don't want to drink anymore. I've stopped drinking altogether, or I've cut back, and I want to start working out, and I want to eat healthier, and I want to start reading books, and I want to start a business or whatever. People become more aligned with their true self, and that's one of the things that the spirit of ayahuasca does is she aligns you and reconnects you to yourself. So in summary of this energetic process, you attend a ceremony and energies that do not serve you are removed, and then you are brought back into harmonization. You are centered, and then you are reconnected to your higher self and reconnected into the frequencies of the earth. And this process alone, while it's not going to be an overnight success, it sets you up for success if you are willing to do the work, and you can make progress that seems nothing short of miraculous. In 6 months to a year after doing a ceremony, if you do the work, you can be an entirely different person. You can be in much better shape physically, mentally, and spiritually. So that's essentially how it works on the energetic level. Now let's talk about one of the aspects of how science has actually proved how this works, which is actually really cool. See, what science has proven is substances like ayahuasca shut down your default mode network. Now, your default mode network can be thought of as like your operating system. See, I believe that we are much better than computers, but ironically, our body and our systems work very similar to a computer. So the analogy by treating human beings like a computer works extremely well. So ayahuasca shuts down your default mode network, and that is your operating system. And you can think of that as that is your personality, right? Because if you think about making change, we all know what we should be doing, right? If I put a gun to your head and said, write out ways on how you could be better, you could all do it. And you would come up with a very good plan. You would say, I should start eating healthier. I should start working out. I should stop scrolling on social media and whatnot. We all know what to do, but why is it so hard to do it? Well, that's because our operating system forces us to play a very specific role and to be a very specific person and to like very specific things. And that pattern and the more we engage in our operating system, the stronger that operating system becomes and the harder it is to break out of it. So this is where the beauty of something like ayahuasca comes in, is because it temporarily shuts down that default mode network. Now, that doesn't mean that you are going to completely change who you are, but what it does is it gives you a chance to make new patterns. So the default mode network gets shut down, and then your brain goes into a state of hyper neuroplasticity. So this means that for a short amount of time, your operating system has essentially been reset, and you have an opportunity to make new connections and establish new patterns. And if you are familiar with Joe Dispenza, you will know that nerve cells that fire together wire together. So this is a very important time, right? The days, weeks, and months after you do a ceremony are extremely important because you have the ability to rewire your own brain and to become the person you want and have always hoped to become. And it's funny. I was at the MAP psychedelic conference last month, and the overall theme of the conference was integration. But ironically, there was only one talk out of all the talks that was actually on integration. And I just so happened to stumble in on that talk. And ironically for me, I didn't even want to go to that talk. I thought I was going to something else. Not that I have anything against integration, because I think integration is everything, and I'm glad that I found myself in that talk. But one of the things they brought up in that talk about integration, they were talking about this neuroplasticity. And one of the things they said that I found fascinating was if you revert back to your old patterns in this state of neuroplasticity, you can actually lock in your bad habits even more. So there's a danger to this, right? Of if you are going to partake in a ceremony, not only you need to take integration extremely serious, because let's say you wanted to break an addiction and you do ceremony, and that ceremony was very effective of suppressing that energy of addiction, giving you a brain reset, and then allowing you to establish new patterns to build a new life outside of and away from this addiction. Well, if while your brain is still in this state of neuroplasticity, you go right back into those addictive behaviors, you can actually rewire that and amplify it. So this is all to say that integration is extremely important. And I think we all know this, but this is just a bigger reminder of that fact. So anyway, when it comes to ayahuasca and how it works, it gives you, but it doesn't cure you. And I think this is the most important thing, is it will not automatically cure you, but it will set you up to give you the best opportunity possible for you to become your own healer, for you to establish new patterns, for you to rebuild your new life. And that's the only way it can work, right? Nothing is ever given to you. We should know this by now. It all comes down to you. Your life is a direct result of all the choices and actions you have made. So if you want a better life, then you need to make better choices and you need to perform better actions. So if you need some help and you don't know where to start, you can always reach out, and I can help point you in the right direction. And also, if you were enjoying these videos, please like them, share them, and subscribe to the channel. All right, that's all I got. See you on the other side.